Welcome back to the second installment of the Millennial Mama Memo. This is my little IG live show slash podcast slash voice memo from your favorite therapist. Basically just giving myself a space to talk to think, get out the updates and things that I want to share with you guys so that way I can convert this into like my newsletter or other content later, since the best way to get crap out of my brain is just for me to yap at you. So if you're watching live, welcome. If you're watching the replay, welcome. So glad you're here. If you're like, nah, I don't have time for a yap session this morning, I totally get it. That's totally fine. Feel free to scroll on by, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day. So keeping up with my notes. The first little segment that we're going to do is, wait, I have to tell you. And this is just where I share whatever random crap is on my brain, things that are making me happy or whatever. Today is St. Patrick's Day, so happy St. Patrick's Day. I am wearing green on green. My girls are wearing green hair ties in their hair today because I literally have one St. Patrick's Day dress that is both of their size, like both of them fitted, because they are basically the same size clothing, even though they are 2.5 years apart in age. And Nora wore the dress on Sunday just because she wanted to, and I forgot to wash the dress, so neither one of them is wearing the one St. Patrick's Day dress we have. So if that is also you're doing great. We're doing great. And St. Patrick's Day also makes me a little bit nostalgic or just think back, because 6 years ago today, March 17th, 2020 was the very last time that I saw a client in person before I had kids. I didn't see a client in person again until summer of 2021, when Harper was a handful of months old. And even then, because it was just so challenging with social distancing and protocols and all that sort of stuff, and like having a little baby at home, I think I saw maybe 2 people for like a session, and that was it. And then it was just easier to convert back to telehealth. And then I did telehealth like full time until I got licensed and had Nora and opened my own practice and moved into my office space that I share with my office mate Jessica, and that was in June of 2024. So we're coming up on 2 years of having a physical space, which is awesome. I'm still probably like a good 80 to 90% telehealth because it's just easier for moms sometimes. Let me see. So that was my little St. Patrick's Day tidbit. My other little tidbit is that my girls and I got hair tinsel in our hair over the weekend, and it's giving me life. I love it. Yes, I have already bought hair tinsel and a tool to install it myself because it's not hard, and I know that I for sure am going to want to have this all the time, and it brings me joy seeing it in their hair if they want it, of course, body autonomy, but I'm super excited about that. And the last thing that I want to share is that Toby, my puppy nephew, is adorable. Oh my god, I now know how obnoxious I will be / am as an auntie, and I just want to say thank you to my brother and sister-in-law for allowing me to share him and shamelessly use him for attention / honestly just to share the joy of him with everybody, because he is so freaking adorable. I love him so much, and I will not tolerate any slander that Toby is not my nephew. That is my nephew, and I love him very much, and I will fight for him. So anyway, I hope you guys all saw the picture yesterday of him in his little sweater, because it's so freaking cute. I cannot. I love it. And also I said freaking, not the other thing. I do say the other thing in real life, but I'm trying not to swear and say naughty things on Instagram Live. But if I do, sorry. Okay, so moving on, that was our wait, I have to tell you, which is just random tidbits from my brain. So now we're moving on to, so here's what's going on, which is just, again, other tidbits from my brain, but a little bit more focused on like business, clinical, that sort of thing. So here's what's going on. I had a thread go, my version of viral, last week and over the weekend. And it was honestly super, super good. It did not go viral in a bad way. It went viral in like, it sparked a lot of good conversations. And basically, I should even just pull it up and read it. Come on, phone, let's work. We're live here. We've got people watching. Is anybody else's threads acting weird? Mine has been acting very weird the last like day or two. like things not loading, being very, very strange. Anyway, what I had said, here's a hot take that's going to piss off some therapists. If you don't have specialized training in perinatal mental health, stop working with pregnant and postpartum people. A license and a master's degree are not enough. Why? Because neither requires perinatal mental health units or training. And that's genuinely the truth. I did not learn a single darn thing about maternal mental health until I had a baby and I started researching it for myself and I started seeking specialized training. And then I said, oh, and while I'm at it, having a baby does not make you qualified to treat perinatal mood disorders. Your lived experience matters, and it's not a substitute for specialized clinical training. Get trained or refer. And then I also put this little heart emoji to be kind. And I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I think sometimes we do a bit of a disservice. Like in the process of getting trained as a therapist, a lot of times we're just like told like, yeah, you can work with anybody, like you need the experience, work with everyone. And I always felt uncomfortable about that as a trainee and an associate because I was like, you want me to use people's lived experiences and real life challenges like as a guinea pig to train me? Like it would have felt more comfortable for me to like observe. So like classic example, I remember I had a supervisor this was actually during the pandemic, and I was very close to getting licensed, and I was like, I disagree with this. And this, I was working with a kiddo, and they're like pandemic, everything completely virtual, and this kiddo just had some really, really significantly high needs when it came to OCD. And OCD absolutely requires specialized treatment and specialized training for the clinician to be able to provide appropriate treatment, because if you treat OCD as if it's anxiety, generalized anxiety disorder, it is not going to get better. And in fact, it very well could get worse. And so I found myself in a situation where I was being encouraged to work with this child in a like 45-minute outpatient telehealth session once a week. And I was like, this isn't going to work. Like, this just is absolutely not going to work. And so that was like one of those moments that even further for me reinforced like scope of competency and scope of practice. What is our scope of practice as therapists, and what is our scope of competency as individuals who are therapists? Just because as a therapist you could work with OCD, does that mean you actually have these specific competencies and trainings to be working with OCD? And so that's one of the things that I very quickly will refer out now, is when there is like significant OCD requiring exposure and response prevention therapy, because I'm not trained in that. So anyway, bringing it back, my goal in writing that thread was not to be like hella controversial or ruffle feathers or make people mad or to gatekeep and be like, oh, like, you know, I'm not trying to be exclusive or anything like that. If anything, I'm wanting to invite people to recognize, hey, it's okay if you don't have specialized training. Here are people who do. And also, if you love this population and you love this work, here's where you can get this specialized training. So that way you can notice the differences between symptoms, because OCD and perinatal OCD are also slightly different and can present in different ways. Like, just to give you an example, like it can be really hard to spot, because when you are working with a brand new mom who has a baby with a very young, immature immune system, and she's going to be anxious about the baby's health, when does that tip from normal experience for a mom into postpartum anxiety? And when does it shift from postpartum anxiety into OCD, into perinatal OCD? That's a very fine thing to tease out sometimes. And oftentimes, like, we as people who are trained in it, as therapists who are trained in this sort of stuff, we need to seek consultation with one another. So that was something that actually I did get a lot of really good feedback about in my thread, was people being like, well, hey, what about situations where it's a more rural area, or there isn't this specialist, or like whatever. And so it was great because I was able to clarify and add on in those situations. Absolutely, we have to do the best we can with what we have. So seek consultation. Like, here are places where you can find people, get that consultation. And also, I want to clarify on here that I was not at all recommending either that if you have a long-standing client who gets pregnant, that you immediately terminate with them. Absolutely not saying that. But maybe you want to seek a little bit of extra training for yourself if you want to continue working with that person, just so that way If any perinatal mood and anxiety disorders or other diagnoses pop up, you are capable of working with them or knowing the limits of your personal scope of competency and are able to help refer them either completely or for adjunctive services. So anyway, that's my so here's what's going on. And I know that was a little bit clinical, so I suppose that part was mostly for my clinical folks out there, my fellow therapists and things. But basically, my for general population, my encouragement would be if you are pregnant or postpartum or trying to conceive anywhere along that spectrum, finding somebody who's specialized in perinatal mental health is honestly a really, really great thing. And maybe a question to be asking any therapist you're interviewing, like, hey, do you have a specialty in this? Are you trained in this? And if they are not, asking the follow-up question of, do you have spaces where you would go to consult for this to get help? Like if something were to come up and you needed some clinical consultation. Those are absolutely phenomenal questions that you should be asking your therapist, and it doesn't make you a bad person if you ask that. I want to be interviewed by my clients. I want them to have all of their questions answered and feel very confident that I'm the right therapist for them. So self-advocacy is so important. Okay, moving on to the next segment. In the future, I'm still getting this put together, but I want to have a segment called Meet My Friend, and it's probably going to be a standalone. It's probably going to be a bit of like a standalone live where I get to pop on with like a friend of mine and get to introduce this friend to you guys, and basically you get to kind of almost listen in on this like little conversation or like voice memo back and forth, like what I would have with my friends who are also nurses, OBGYNs, lactation consultants, did I already say nurses? I probably did. Other therapists, like as we are talking back and forth about life working with this population and being in the specialties we have. So my question for you guys is, who should I have on? If there is somebody that you would love to see, shoot me a message. If you would love to come on and be with me, please shoot me a message because I would love to have you. Alrighty, and then moving on to our last segment, one last thing, and I guess it's, oh no, it is just one last thing. I have an email newsletter. I am playing with the name of calling it In Case You Missed the Memo, because doing the Millennial Mama Memo live really helps me to actually write the newsletter. I have a link in my bio where you can subscribe so that way you never miss a memo. And replays for the live, if you like watching it live or having it play in the background like a podcast, will be included in that, both to my Instagram, and then I'm also uploading these to YouTube as well. So yeah, don't forget to, thank you for tuning in if you're watching this live or if you're watching the replay. And I just think it's so catchy and fun to say. Don't forget to subscribe to the newsletter so that way you never miss a memo. Alrighty. Oh, and I will also throw one last thing in there. I'm accepting new clients. So if you are thinking about working with a therapist, if you know someone that you think could use a therapist, specifically in the perinatal realm, again, I talk a lot about that. My practice kind of exists at the intersection of motherhood and neurodiversity. So if you know a mom who like fits into any of that, they don't necessarily have to be neurodiverse either, or maybe they don't know they're neurodiverse. That's actually a really big thing in motherhood too. So yeah, if you know anybody who might fall into any of those sorts of categories or you think would jive with me, feel free to send them my way, send them my information. They can book a consultation call with the link in my bio, see what my availability is. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this up because clearly I'm starting to get tongue-tied, but I really enjoy doing this. So thank you so much everyone for being here. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day, and enjoy the lovely greenery of St. Patrick's Day today. All right, bye.